Hello chess friends and welcome to your out of chess channel and welcome back to our little computer chess world. Welcome to a spectacular game played by Stockfish against Lc0 from the computer Blitz chess championship in 2024 that's going on now on chess.com. Stockfish already won the event with a clear result in the super finals against the Tor chess engine. Stockfish after 500 games had almost a plus 100 result against Torch, but the organizer then decided also to leave Stockfish to play against the third ranked chess engine, which was Lila-C0. Lila finished in the semifinals on the third place, but now Stockfish basically played against the Tor chess engine, but also against the Lila chess engine. And after 322 games, Stockfish has again a clear result. Stockfish has a plus 60 result against Lila-C0. So also in this match, I think nothing dramatically would change. Stockfish will simply destroy Lila-C0. And I've sorted out what was, in my opinion, one of the most spectacular games from this match between Stockfish and Lila, in which the organizer decided to leave them to play the so-called Mikenas defense. The Mikenas defense is sometimes very hard to handle from White's perspective, but Stockfish will show us here really beautiful gambit line, really sharp attacking method against the Mikenas defense. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. The fish opened with the move d4. We have knight to c6, the Mikenas defense. Stockfish developed with knight to f3, d6. Here Lila is trying, of course, to develop the light square bishop, e4, e5. We have bishop to b5, and after bishop to g4, now Stockfish goes into a very interesting line. Here Stockfish plays now the move h3, immediately challenges now this bishop on g4. Lila takes, Stockfish takes. You cannot take of course with the knight because of the bishop's activity, but of course you can play now e takes d4, and this was actually still the prearranged move by the organizer. After move c3, d takes c3, and knight to c3. From this point on, the engines calculated the position for himself. And okay, let's stop and evaluate the position. Stockfish is down a pawn, but I think Stockfish has a good compensation for the lost pawn, has now a beautiful piece activity. Two minor pieces Stockfish brought already out. The queen is out on a very active square, and Stockfish, we have to also mention, has still the bishop pair on the board, which is in such an open battle like this, of course, a huge advantage. But of course, Black is up a pawn. If Black managed to defend his position, then Black in the potential endgame should be much better. So here a6 by Lila. Stockfish retreats. What you could do now with the black pieces is to play now the move b5, but b5 leads now into a very risky line like this. You have to cover now with the queen calcing. You have to cover like this, a4. There's simply too much pressure. You cannot even develop this dark square bishop to the square g6, bishop to g7, because then queen to c3 is going to happen, bishop to e3, putting more pressure on the c file. So it's, I think, a devastating game here for black. So that's why for bishop to a4, Lila continued with knight to f6, kingside calcing, and now a very important move by Lila, knight to d7. If you play here bishop to e7, which in the beginning seems like a normal idea, in the beginning it seems so that this should be working, you're one move far away from calcing and then you have a solid structure. But actually after bishop to e7, then e5 is simply destroying here black's camp. You're trying something like this with take, you get a check. You cannot of course cover with the queen because you lose the rook. Maybe you go to f8, but look at this. White would simply continue the attacking flow, wouldn't have here maybe this kind of a chance. Look at the bishop to f6, g takes f6. Of course, white and black don't have to play the game like this, but look at this. So many light square problems. This knight will eventually find its way maybe here on the square f5. When it gets there, it's very dangerous. Rook will come on the d and e file. King is still messed up. I think again a messed up game simply here for black. After kingside calcing, that's why knight to d7. Lila controls the move that we have analyzed now. It's not allowing Stockfish here to push the pawn on e5. We have bishop to b3. Stockfish threatens checkmate, and now knight to e5 comes of course with an attack against the queen, but also with the protection of the f7 square. Queen to g3, knight to g6, and now bishop to e3. Stockfish has now developed every minor piece, has now the queen on a good square, has now also great activities through the d file, and now finally bishop to e7 played by Lila-C0, trying of course to secure the king by calcing. You could maybe try knight to c5, going for the slice square bishop because you don't want to maybe tolerate it here on such an active square, but actually then white can even go into this line, then rook to d1, you to escape, e5, e6. Look at this very messy position. I think after a couple more moves black is getting destroyed by the move e6 here for sure. So that's why after bishop to e3, Lila kept it calm, is, as I said, simply preparing kingside castling. f4 by the fish, c6, rook from a to d1, targeting now the d6 weakness. And now after kingside castling, Stockfish plays now really an interesting idea. This move really surprised me. I was stunned when I saw this move. I'm not sure how many of us would even consider this move in any of our lines. We would maybe try to do something here, maybe double up the rooks on the d file, maybe in some lines even e5 should be working, maybe f5, I don't know, or maybe bishop to d4, improve, maybe bishop to d4 here is trying somehow to improve the position of the dark square bishop. Many options, but the fish is a different beast. Stockfish, believe it or not, in this position played now the aggressive h4. Really wild stuff. So what's the idea behind this move h4? One of the clear ideas I would say is that in some lines the h file could be opened, but if you try here something like knight to h4, the issue is now after queen to h3 and maybe you retreat with your knight, is to push the pawn on e5. And now you see there is a huge tension here on this d file. Of course, with the support of the queen, the knight is a little bit loose. You cannot take, of course, because you lose the knight and it's of course game over. Even if you retreat here somewhere, knight to c5, it's not working because of bishop to c5. And now again, Stockfish is preparing the aggressive e6, f5 and similar stuff. So this pawn on the f file and also the pawn on the e file are so mobile, are so dangerous. So very interesting idea here by the fish. So after moving to h4 by Stockfish, we saw knight to h4 is not working, so that's why Lila tried bishop to h4, but again with the same plan by the fish. Queen to h3 with the threat of e5. And also notice now after bishop to h4, also the d6 pawn is very weak. So that's why queen to e7 by Lila c0, and now e5 anyway here by the fish. Again, let's repeat, you cannot take because of rook takes d7. After e5, d5 by Lila. Lila managed somehow to lock the position now on the d file, but now of course f5 is, I think, the huge threat in some lines. Bishop to c2, f5. Of course it's not possible immediately because of the good control by the knights of the square e5, but as a long-term plan, I think f5 is now huge positional but also tactical threat here by white. Knight to e4 by the fish, again using the tensions on the d file, because if you take, let's repeat again rook to d7. After knight to e4, rook from f to d8 by Lila c0, and now Stockfish finds a beautiful square here for the knight. Very powerful octopus knight cemented on the most powerful square. Rook knight from f to d8, knight to f5, attacking now the bishop twice, and now queen to d7. The only defensive move here for Lila, because you cannot take actually knight to h4, because first of all queen takes h3 would happen, then g takes h3, and then Lila could get the piece back. And in this position, I think white should be lost. Black has gained simply too much material, has gained 2 pawns in this tactical sequence. Of course, still we have the bishop pair, but I think without the queens, it's not such an important thing. So black is much better here. So that's why for queen to d7, you cannot take it out immediately here, the bishop on h4. So that's why Stockfish plays rook to f3. Now knight to h4 is a huge threat. Here Lila c0 retreats to e7, and now rook here rook to g3. If you play again this move bishop to h4, let's see now why this move rook to f3 was important. Now it's working. Knight to h4, you try this idea, queen to h3, but after rook to h3, the knight is protecting here the h4 square. After here rook to g3, Lila tried b6, and Stockfish simply plays a calm king to h1, gets out simply out of this potential dark square problems, because Lila is desperately trying, of course, somehow to trade off the dark square bishops, tries of course to simplify the game as much as it can. So after king to h1, a5 by Lila, queen to h5, Stockfish is sneaking in with the queen, bishop to c5, and of course Stockfish keeps now the pieces on the board, is not allowing again a simplification by Lila. Rook to e8, bishop to c2. You see, slowly but surely Stockfish is building sort of a mating net. It's building a really powerful attacking formation. The good part for Lila is of course that still this knight on f8 is protecting the h7 square. Usually this would be a very dangerous position to handle if this knight would not be protecting here the pawn on h7. But so far Leela is holding the position. Let's see now Stockfish continuation. After bishop to c2, Leela tried queen to c7, and now Stockfish plays a calm a3, but also wants, of course, to kick away this annoying bishop from the square c5. That's why b5. Even if you try b4, Leela would simply retreat and would stay on this very active diagonal. After b5, rook to h3, b4, and now rook to f1. Stockfish is trying, of course, to include now this other rook into the game. What should you do? If you try here b takes a3, we should not forget in this position there is a huge tactical threat that Stockfish prepared here. Actually, Stockfish prepared this move knight takes g7. So that's why here in this position b takes a3 is a little bit too slow, because you get this one, knight takes g7, you're trying king to g7, then f5, you're trying maybe knight to e5, but then f6, and then bishop to h7, you're getting destroyed by this beautiful piece activity of white. So that's why for rook to f1, we have a rook to e6. And now Stockfish tries anyway, of course, this idea, knight takes g7, really stunning tactic again by the fish, because after king to g7, now you get f5, and you get now the fork against the rook and the knight. Leela is trying to battle queen to e5, tries, of course, again to simplify the game, at least trading off the queens, but Stockfish continues now with f takes e6. What should you do? If you try here queen to e6, this wouldn't be so good, because after bishop to h6, we can pick up now this one. And now if you try, for instance, knight to f8, then there is again this problem around the square h7. So you would be pretty much forced to play the move king to f8 here. But again, bishop to g6, look at this. Queen to g6, there is now even this threat. So look how brutal really this attack by the fish is. You simply lose now the rook here on the 8th rank. Again, game over here for black. So that's why after f takes e6, you don't have time to pick up here this this pawn with your queen. You cannot also pick it up here with your knight, because then this one is the threat. We pick up the knight that is defending the queen, and now if you pick up the queen, still the bishop can pick up the queen, so white would gain an extra piece here. So that's why it's not working. So if you pick up, of course, the bishop, then you lose simply the queen. Very dirty stuff that Stockfish is trying to do here. So after f takes e6, that's why Leela is forced now to play the move queen to h5, but Stockfish has now this intermediate check. We have king to g8, and now finally rook takes h5. What should you do now with the black pieces here? If you try here knight to e6, it's not working because of rook to h7. This knight is weak. You're getting destroyed on here on the 8th rank. Even if you try maybe to protect it like this, still we can stay, of course, on this rank. This knight will be attacked. We can always include some other pieces into the game. Again, there's simply too much pressure by both of these rooks, by the bishops. I would again say here game over for black. After rook to h5, that's why Leela tried rook to e8, is trying to get this pawn with the rook, but now Stockfish plays rook takes h7. Great tactic, because after knight to h7, we have bishop to g6. Again, the fork against the bishop, the knight and the rook. We have a rook to e7. Leela is trying to protect now the knight, but now Stockfish plays a takes b4, a calm move. Stockfish has, of course, also to solve now the positional problems on the queen side. We have a takes b4, and now bishop to f7, disconnecting now the rook from the defense of the knight. King to g7, the only move here for Leela c0, trying to somehow protect the knight, but now a brilliant move, bishop to h6. Black's king is pretty much cornered here, and after king to f6, now bishop to f4. And notice now that the knight is simply out of game. You don't have any good scores for the knight. The only square that you could try is knight to f8, but then you get bishop to e5, checkmate. Really wild stuff. So Stockfish calculated everything in such a great way. Look at this. You're getting destroyed by the bishop's activity, by this annoying pawn on e6. The rook is controlling the 5th rank. Really immortal checkmate pattern here. So here, that's why for bishop to f4, Leela is pretty much forced now to give up the rook for the exchange. And after rook to h6, again, Stockfish is not rushing. First of all, gets the king on a really not active square. If the king, of course, gets closer to maybe to the center of the board, then it's a different story. Stockfish, though, is first to check, is not rushing, and still has time to pick up now the rook. And now, of course, Leela has to play knight to f6, because if you pick up this one, then the knight is hanging. So after e takes f7, knight to f6, Stockfish plays now g4, wants to grab this one. Very important move, I would say, because if these pawns are more marching here, then this could be maybe unpleasant with this 3 versus 1 situation. Who knows what would have happened then. So that's why after knight to g4, first of all, rook to c6, the bishop is hanging. Leela is trying this one, first to check, and now protects the bishop. Stockfish goes with rook to c5, amazing move, again by the fish. Whatever you do, even if you try here king to f7 first, then we simply deliver check, and we have still this extra rook. So that's why after rook to c5, knight you can also after rook to c5 you could of course also try knight to c5, but then we have this one, f8 the promotion, and then you pick up the knight, and in this position it's of course completely winning endgame. Stockfish will grab this pawn cannot be taken because it can be always protected. This pawn is weak, so it's of course completely winning for white. After rook to c5, that's why knight to f4 by Leela, king to f3, knight to d3, but now Stockfish grabs another pawn. Leela tries to deliver check, Stockfish attacks now the knight and goes simply with the rook behind, and now Leela is forced to play the move king to f8, rook to f4, b3, king to f3, and now Leela c0 played, I think, really an unnecessary move, but I think the game would have been prolonged for a couple more moves. Still, it's a losing game, of course, for black. Stockfish promotes the queen now, grabs now this knight, and after a couple more moves, it was a beautiful checkmate by the rook and queen activity. So, great game again by the fish. Really interesting attack, sacrificing the pawn just in order to open the h-file. Really dirty stuff by the fish. Again, immortal tactical sequence against Leela c0. So as I mentioned, in this match, in the Computer Blitz Chess Championship, Stockfish has now plus 60 result against Leela c0. I don't think anything will change dramatically. Maybe +2 +3 Leela c0 could make, but that's just an optimal solution for Leela. In every of this opening pre-arranged openings that we see, Stockfish manages somehow to grab a draw in a seemingly worse position and then wins the reverse game. So Stockfish is simply too powerful for Leela c0, but we have also seen too powerful for the Tor chess engine. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the Mikenas defense. If you want to see more epic, sharp, brutal tactics, sorry, my microphone just fell off, sorry. So as I said, if you want to see more beautiful chess games like this, check out our Comte Chess Games Play by Computer series. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos. And what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.